Hi everyone, little watching in YouTube land or listening in Spotify land. Welcome back to, I'm going to put my Coke down. Welcome back to Path Publication episode 13 with your hosts, Finn.
Andie.
And Andy. I forgot about the slight delay there. Before we get on to our main topic of the podcast, how are things?
I don't know if anyone's noticed, but there's been a little bit of a hiatus in the last month or so. I've not been able to actually record anything. Life went a bit tits up.
I think mine's been like slightly less dramatic as yours at the moment, without going into too much detail. But we've both been unavailable for different reasons. So hopefully we can pick the ball back up again and continue this on. Because I remember we made a big song and dance about it a couple of podcasts ago, going, "Oh yeah, we're doing one every single month since September." And then May rolls around.
To be fair though, the first week of May, I was in Morocco and I was hiking through the mountains in Morocco, so that was a good excuse.
I was putting in the group chat going, "How's everyone doing?" And you just have like a lovely vista, like a lovely Moroccan vista. I'm going like, "How dare you? I'm so jealous."
I'd love to go back. And my feet are still in recovery. I've got like this massive bruise under the nail of my big toe, and it's just not going anywhere.
That's not fun.
Small price to pay for a great time.
I bet it was very healing for yourself, both emotionally and mentally, and also kind of like freeing, just to kind of be away from everything for a bit, and just kind of like just focus on one thing, which is like hiking and not dying.
Yeah, not falling down the mountain. My phone was on airplane mode for the whole time. I think I didn't get Wi-Fi for about 5 days, and then when I finally did get a bit of Wi-Fi, I texted everyone. I was like, "Hi, don't worry, I'm still alive."
Yeah, you won't go quiet for a while. And going, "Oh, she's going to wait until the end of the trip and then just bombard us with loads of lovely photos from Morocco." And that's what you did.
I'll be honest. One of my favourite moments in Morocco was me and the whole group. Because I went on a group tour. We were just laying down on the balcony. I think it's like a balcony of one of the mountain jeeps that we were in the village. And we all just had our books out. We had like sleeping bags thrown over us. We were all reading. There's like a great picture of just everyone laying down in a square.
Like a little reading club whilst you're out there. That's lovely.
But, I think we called it the Bookworm Club because we all look like worms.
Andy now has a little blog site, a little Substack. So, do you want to plug that before we go on?
Yeah, so I'll drop the link in the bio. I'll drop the link in the comments section of everywhere. But it's just a little place for me to just share some of my thoughts and my personal essays. I think one of the ones that I actually wrote recently was about my time in Morocco and how it's changed my perspective on some things. I'm also going to put on there like my short stories. I posted some old ones from like university, that sort of thing. And I'm also going to try and start to post some of my longer form stories that I'm not going to publish anywhere. And it's just a bit of an exercise, really. Try and build a bit of an audience on it and just see how everyone, likes my work.
That's always a big plus. It's always a big plus. It's like an extra little bit you can do to kind of get your name out there so people can recognise you and be like, "This is an Andy Mason work."
Yes. And I'm getting some really nice feedback so far, especially on the personal essays. They seem to do really well on Substack.
I love the personal essays. It's great. I love them. I feel like I'm sitting down with you in like a coffee in a cafe somewhere. And we're just having a long girly chat, and it's really lovely. It's quite cosy, the writing, even if it's something quite heavy and quite serious that sort of thing. It kind of feels so kind of comforting to read it and kind of commiserate alongside you and kind of like celebrate all your successes as well.
Yeah, there's something very therapeutic in it as well. Like going back to a few episodes where we were talking about mental health and writing, it's now another outlet for me. And not in a negative way. I'm not focusing on the negatives, but I'm using the negatives to spin to a positive and just sharing that experience. That
is the key. Is like if you are in a kind of a negative cycle, that sort of thing, if you can try and turn your negatives into a positive, obviously sometimes it's a bit more difficult than others. That's always going to be a massive plus for you to kind of get out of that negative spiral circle.
Yes. No negative roundabouts here.
Yes, no negative roundabouts. On my side, I've not really had much like tumultuous stuff happen over the last couple of months or so, but it's been a very social month. I went to a couple of conventions. So 2 weeks ago, I went to the UK GE convention in the NEC in Birmingham. It was amazing. They had a lot more areas open this year than last year. Last year, they only had like 2 halls. This year, they had basically all of the NEC open for it, which was really good. Very, very busy. Don't go on a Saturday. Saturday is the busiest day, and idiot here decided to go and book it for that day. But yeah, it normally runs over 4 days. It's got board games, D&D, writing, wargaming, that sort of thing, all mixed into one. I highly recommend it. The UK Games Expo, or UKGE. So I went to that 2 weeks ago. This week I've had a week off work, just because I fancied it. No particular reason. So I've been very, very relaxed. Trying to get all my extra projects done, get the house tidied, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's been a relatively chill week so far for me.
Did you get your new setup downstairs sorted?
I did. So I didn't mention this earlier on. You may have recognised there are two new backgrounds around us at the moment. They're not green screen. They're actually like actual things. Look, I can touch it. Yeah. So on my side of things, we moved the office downstairs. And initially, I said to Ash, "No, I don't want to do that. Why are we going to do that? There's going to be internet issues. What the hell?" And we actually got around to doing it. Everything works without a hitch. There've been no problems so far with it. So far, touch wood. There've been absolutely no problems with it whatsoever. The internet seems to be a lot quicker as well downstairs, even though the router's upstairs. I don't know. I'm not an IT guy. But yeah, there's been no issues whatsoever. And also, the big plus is that there's more room in this room, and it also means that when Ghost comes in, it doesn't feel like he's shoved in the corner because there's a green screen in the way, or because we're like not focusing immediately on him. I can actually turn around and be like, "Hi, Ghost."
Part of the chaos of us not being able to film last month was because I was moving house as well. So I've moved back to the house where we originally started this podcast. Actually,
yay!
Had the publication started in this very room here, with a slightly different setup. I've gone for a completely different, look this time. The look is I'm just got boxes everywhere. But in all this chaos, I'm still, I'm trying to edit my stories. I'm building my Substack. I'm getting some personal essays out there, some short stories out there. So not all bad.
You're using the writing. The writing's been like little beacons of light and little beacons of joy for you in this tumultuous time. I have a little bit of news. You remember a couple of podcasts ago, it'll be a couple of months ago for us, but a couple of podcasts away for you, that Andie had her script read at a script writing group that we go to on the regular. Guess whose script is going to get read in a couple of weeks' time? This guy! So, if you listen to episode 10, we read as a group, a couple of our friends, we've had a table read of episode 2 of Dom John's Delight Hut, which is the pizza script that I mentioned in the very first episode, which was terrible. I have gone back to episode 1 of that pizza script series, and I have updated it. I have rewritten it in my own kind of style and got rid of all the crap stuff. Well, hopefully all the crap stuff. I made a new draft of it, basically. And I've submitted that draft to the writing group. So they will then read that in about 2 weeks' time. With completely fresh eyes. They don't know me personally, so it's not going to feel like... I mean, I appreciate everything that Andie and all of my friends said in the script read that we did in episode 10. But I also know that they are my friends. So they will have they won't have as much distance as somebody coming into it completely fresh, which is why the script writing group will have that benefit. So we're going to do that in 2 weeks' time, and I'm going to let you know in the next podcast how it went. I'm already in a spiral of I'm a fraud, fraud, but we'll see how it goes.
I found it to be a really difficult experience when I was like, the anticipation and build up was fine because it's like I'm an overthinker, I'm anxious anyway, so that I can handle. But in the moment when everyone was actually reading it, it's a very, very weird experience.
It feels really, a little bit like the table read felt a little bit like I was at school and I was like reading a project out to the class, and like the class was then reviewing me. But I don't know how this is going to feel a bit weird. It feels like it feels weird to say it. It feels real. even though this isn't going to go and get produced or developed or whatever, it will probably get developed, but it won't get produced. It's going to be a different experience because we don't have that safety net of they're your friends. You have they're going to be readers, they're going to be script writers, but they aren't your friends. So you don't have that safety net. So it's kind of like putting yourself up bare basically for people to review. It's like, am I valid? Basically, it's a very scary thing to do.
Seal of approval from this group.
Yeah, it's a seal of approval the seal of approval is the one thing that I'm kind of craving for. It's kind of like, I said this to one of the other people that were there last time I was at SWEM, which was she asked me like, why do you want to submit a script in and that sort of thing. I was like, for me, it's like I need that validation that yes, you can write, and then also the second validation of yes, you can write funny. Because I don't think I've written anything strictly comedy for about 10 years. So I originally wrote the script that's going to be reviewed. Would be 10, maybe slightly older than the one that we read for episode 10. So probably about 10 or 11 years ago. And I haven't written anything strictly comedy since then. I've wrote a couple of police dramas, a couple of murder mysteries, that sort of thing, but nothing in the comedy realm for about 10 years. And I want to kind of like convince myself that I can still do it, basically. So if I can get people to laugh, even if it's like a little titter, I'm like, yes, great, I've done it. Sorry, go on.
I know you in real life, and I know that you're quite a funny person in real life. So to see this translating into page is going to be quite an interesting experience.
Thank you. I'll take the compliment. But yeah, I just kind of want to convince myself that I can still do it. Just a small part of me thinking that it was 10 years ago. I don't want to fall into that trap of like going like, oh yeah, I'm still funny 10 years ago. I want to actually have kind of like validation that yes, you are right, you are good at this.
Yeah. Keep
going. And also kind of like, because I obviously, as you know from episode 10, I submitted episode 2 to the BBC and didn't get any real feedback other than thank you but no thanks. And it'd be nice to see what the actual feedback from that script is in more detail than just yes or no.
The one I submitted that got really great feedback at SWEM.
Yeah.
Got rejected by BBC Open Call as well.
Yeah, so we didn't mention this in the last one, did we? Was it a generic email that I got, which was basically thanks but no thanks?
Yeah, it was mail merge. It was a template mail merge. Quite easy one. But then I also got 4 rejections from agencies on that same script in the same week.
Woo! We're writers! Obviously, because it's been 10 years since I originally wrote it, and before the redraft, I could stand back and be like, well, I wouldn't format it that way, so I can change the formatting errors quite easily. There are certain bits where there's like clunky dialogue that I could potentially change and make slightly better. The main character and the girl he has a crush on are having a little sweet conversation, basically. And she's basically saying, like, how long have you worked here? And he says, oh, not long. He's like, well, I can tell. And she's like, oh, that's very mean. And kind of like a nice little back and forth, basically kind of like chewing the shit. Kind of like, he's basically saying to her that I'm still new at this, and she's basically saying, like, I know. When I wrote that originally in the script, it felt a little bit boring. It didn't come across as sweet and lovey. It just felt a little bit like, this is a plot point. He's tying up a plot point. This is very, very plotty. Didn't make sense. Didn't really make sense for the rest of the story to have that scene. And I could just cut it, but I also kind of wanted to have a scene where the main character is crushing on the love interest that he can't have. But there wasn't a way of kind of putting it in naturally, but well cohesive. So I've changed the scene. So the scene, instead of her taking the piss out of him for being quite new at the job, which is kind of a bit of a boring kind of like baseline dialogue thing, I've now changed it to she finds his notebook that he's been writing this scripts on. Hello, hi, it's a script section. She finds his notebook that he's been doing this script in, and he's basically trying to like throw it under a bushel and just like we're going, no, don't look at it. It's not right. It's stupid. Like, ignore it. Blah, blah. and she's basically giving him a load of compliments and like trying to help him out through it, that sort of thing. Which I think felt a little bit, it read a bit better, a bit more natural, not just like I am doing a plot. It read more like I'm having a conversation with you, which sounds better.
I suppose that having that time away from it, you can see a lot more of the problems now.
Yeah,
you're looking at it with fresh eyes almost. Like you're not the person who wrote it. You're Finn 10 years down the line, a different place in time. Like the things he was trying to express are completely different. So you've basically got your own editor.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You've got fresh eyes. It's like a completely new person's looking back at the script now. There's been a long amount of time since I originally wrote it that I can look back at it and be like, I can cut that, I can change this, I can move that around, that sort of thing, and not feel like I'm cutting parts of me out of it. That's what deters me from editing something immediately after I've written it. Is that kind of thing like, oh, if I cut that bit out, then people aren't going to understand it later on, and that sort of thing. It's like, well, in reality, if you cut it out, you can just put it back in again if it doesn't work, but you won't know until you've edited it, until you've changed it in some way. That's the whole thing. It can't stand on its own as a monolith. It needs to be constantly adapting, constantly changing.
And especially when I'm a pantser, like I am, I make things up as I go along. So if I'm editing as I'm going along, I'm going to be opening up big plot holes. I'm going to be stuck in like little loops that I can't resolve later down the line because I'm just making it up as I fucking go along.
You're writing in corners, literally writing in corners the entire thing.
Whereas you're planning it, you're very exact. You're down to the exact scene when you're writing things. So I suppose I don't know what my point is, actually. I'm just rambling.
It's easier, I think, if you write it in a way where it's like regimented in the way of like, I need to get this scene done, this is what happens in the scene, blah, blah, blah. Without like writing it down and then moving on to the next one, writing it down and the next one. It's kind of like, I'll have an idea for the scene. I know what I want to get out of that scene. Then I'll write it. Then I'll do that alongside I finish the script. Then I'll go back to the beginning. And then I can then go through and be like, don't need that, need this is great, edit this, blah, blah, blah. Whereas I think if you pants it and you're going to edit it as you go along, you're constantly kind of like catching your own tail. So you kind of like go around in circles, you write yourself into multiple corners, rather than just like letting it flow and then coming back to the shit part of it and then editing that bit out.
So with me writing my stories as well as my scripts, I make a really, really huge effort to not edit a damn thing as I'm writing. It's like it's coming out, first draft, I'm vomiting everything out. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. It doesn't matter if there's like typos everywhere or, I've got run-on sentences. I've got words squished together. It doesn't matter as long as it's on the page.
So I used to do that. I can't. So having said that, I can't go through a script and leave mistakes in it. Like obvious mistakes, like spelling mistakes, that sort of thing. I have to go through. I have to go back and change and fix the spelling mistakes, fix formatting errors, that sort of thing. The only things that I will probably leave until the second draft is like plot points, like specific plot points that don't quite fit, or scenes with clunky dialogue. I will leave to the next draft. Anything format related or spelling mistakes, that sort of thing, I will do as I go along. So I have like a separate kind of criteria for each draft, basically.
So you're polishing as you're pushing the turd out. I'm quitting that.
Yes, essentially.
I'm not putting that in there.
I couldn't put it better myself. Yes, I'm polishing the turd as it goes through the script.
Sometimes I disgust myself with how vulgar I can be.
See, Andie has this kind of like air that like she's very professional, very demure, but actually she's actually a filthy demon behind the scenes.
Yeah. I got the worst potty mouth out of our friendship group.
So most of the time it's warranted.
I disgust myself.
But we wouldn't change it for the world though, Andie.
I heard a very good phrase where you write up, but you edit down.
Yeah.
And I kind of stick with that ethos.
I think I mentioned it before in a previous podcast, but yes, I am an overwriter. I'm not an underwriter, I'm an overwriter. Even in the first draft, I will write as much as I can possibly do in a particular scene. I will come back to it in the second draft and I will cut it down. I can't be bothered to deal with that in the first draft. The first draft is a toilet draft. Get through it, get to the end of it, then you can worry about whether it makes sense afterwards.
Has there ever been anything that you've like looked back on and you've just completely demolished it and started from scratch almost during the editing process?
Not script related, but one of my novels that I wrote, the first novel I ever finished writing, I would say novel, it's not something I'd ever put out or get published, was in year 6 or 7. I finished my first novel, in inverted commas, which was an action novel. Basically, I'd done James Bond, but I'd self-inserted my friends as James Bond kind of thing. I think a couple of years later, I kind of put it in a drawer, forgot about it. Came back a couple of years later. I think I was still in college at the time, and I looked and I was like, "This is crap." There isn't a single redeeming feature in this entire script. I need to entire story. Sorry, I'm going to need to rewrite the entire thing. So that's what I started to do. I rewrote the entire novel because I wasn't happy with the way it ended up, basically. And I'm still not finished that novel yet. That's still on the back burner when I have time. But it is becoming a little bit, not so much of a white whale, but it's kind of like I've wrote so much as I can at the moment until I have time to write. When I go back to it, I might end up rewriting that whole thing again. Because I've still got the seeded story in my head, but just like I'm not happy with the way that I've put it on the page yet.
Maybe it's just one of those ideas that you're just gonna have to let it go. Like it's not your idea.
Not my time, not my idea.
No. Because I like I think I've mentioned this in a previous podcast, but I like the idea that stories come and visit you, and if they're meant for you, you can write them, you can get them out.
I agree with that, yeah. And that's the thing of like sometimes they can be so fleeting. They can be like, you're on the bus, and you're like, I'm nowhere near a notepad. I'll have to put it on my notes app. I'll forget where I put the notes app on my phone, and it's lost into the ether forever. Or you'll have a strange dream, and it's like sometimes it seems so kind of like Victorian to say this, but sometimes you'll get the best ideas when you're asleep. And you'll have like a weird dream, like, oh, that would be interesting to use in this script or this story. But because it was in a dream, sometimes you'll wake up and completely forget what it was. Just remember that you've had an idea whilst you were dreaming, but now you can't remember what that idea was. And it's frustrating.
And you can remember it was a good idea as well, which makes it even worse.
Yes. It's like, oh my God, I had like my £1 million idea whilst I was asleep, and I can't remember a single part of it.
This is the one that's going to get me the Oscars.
And then it starts to feed into that idea that you're a fraud.
Has there been any problems that you've seen during your editing process where you can recognise it as, oh my God, I do that too often?
I think it's like, for me, something that I have tried to train myself out of is giving dialogue directions. Stage direction is different. Dialogue directions, so like quietly, sarcastically, that sort of thing. I was like, cut those out. Unless it's absolutely important for whoever's reading it to know how to say it, then don't put it in. Normally, if you need to tell somebody how to say a line, it's a bad line, needs to be rewritten. But even now, I'm still writing things. I'm going like, well, that doesn't really make any sense unless I say it this particular way. Like, no, you need to rewrite that line to make sense in a way where you don't have to put the extra dialogue direction of quietly, quickly, sadly, whatever. That's probably one of the things that I fall down on is putting parentheses in dialogue that don't need to be there. How about you, Andie?
I'm not too sure, actually. It's always different problems for me every time I'm editing something. There's normally very silly typos. I'm very good at those. Just like slip letters where I've just smashed a completely different letter than the one I was aiming for because I touch type. I don't look down at the keys when I'm typing.
Oh, I'm jealous of you. I can't do that. I have to look at the keyboard when I'm typing.
Yeah, Finn's a dad typer. He's one finger on each key. can switch type. So I was talking to someone whilst I was writing my dissertation at university, and I was having a full-blown conversation whilst I was typing, and I was making eye contact. And they stopped in the middle of the conversation. They're like, "You're not doing that. You can come read it." And they came around and they read it, and I was like, "How have you done that?" I was like, I don't know. If I stop and think about it, I don't know. It freaks me out.
But yeah,
it does lead to a lot of typos. It leads to a lot of drop letters and fun insertions.
Oh, the amount of times that I have misspelled "the" of all words. Like, even like, it makes sense if like you're using if you're using your phone and you're texting, because sometimes they'll autocorrect it to whatever the hell it feels like we're autocorrecting it to. But typing it is one of the easiest words. One of the first words you learn, and when you learn the English language, is "the." And the amount of times I put "eth," "het," or some version of it being separated in some way, because I'm typing it so fast that I don't realise until I go back and I'm like, oh my god. And sometimes it's the simplest words that I'll misspell.
We're from the East Midlands, so we tend to drop a lot of our sounds as well. So maybe you're just doing that.
That's true, yeah. So originally I was from a town called Hinckley, which begins with an H. But if you say it like someone from Hinckley, you drop the H and it becomes Inkler. You also drop the E as well. And it also tends to be, because we're from Leicestershire, we tend to drop our H's on everything. So the amount of times I go for a script, I'm like, there should be an H there.
Yeah, we're very lazy speakers. Our dialect is very lazy.
I think that's not also a Leicestershire thing. I think that's an English thing. We are lazy with our language a lot. And we steal it from other people, but then we are also lazy when we say it out again.
But just off topic, I don't know if I'm going to post this or not, but what's that thing that you lie in, and soak yourself in water?
A bath. I know what you're trying to say. You're going to trip me up and be like a bath.
Or a bath.
I used to be a bath person, but then I changed it to a bath. I wonder if people who are from Bath say bath or bath, or is it like a class thing?
Oh, good question. I was in Bath and I never asked anyone about that.
Just hear what they say when they're talking about their own town. You from Bath or Bath?
I'm going to assume it's Bath because it's very posh down there, isn't it?
It does sound quite a posh area of the country, isn't it? Of what I've heard.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful though. I was in a spa down there. That was nice.
I've been to Bristol, but I've not been to Bath.
That sounds like a song.
I've been to Bristol, but I've not been to Bath. There you go, you're welcome. Someone can auto-tune that and make it into a remix. I'm not going to waste the time on it.
Back on topic.
Yeah.
Has there ever been anything that you've edited out that you've been really upset to lose?
Probably yes. I'm going to say yes on that one. I hate at cutting things out. Unless it's something where I'm like, that obviously doesn't need to be there. Like an extra piece of dialogue that doesn't really lead anywhere. There have been like whole scenes that I've cut out and I've been like, oh, I really like that scene, but it doesn't make sense now that I've done a rewrite, because now I've rewritten myself out of that scene, so it doesn't make sense to put it back in. I can't think of any like exact examples, but in my police procedural script, there's been a couple of scenes that have been casualties because I've rewritten it and I've cut them out, basically. Or I've given them a smaller role than they had originally, so they didn't necessarily need that scene. So, yes, I am very precious with my scenes. I know it's kind of bad craftsmanship to do that because you're supposed to be like, kill your darlings. But I'm still kind of like, hello, Ash. I'm still kind of like, but I don't want to cut that bit out. I had such a fun time writing it and it had such a vivid like scene along the lines of it. And then I'm looking back and go like, yes, but it doesn't make sense with everything else now. But okay, fine, I'll have to put it by the wayside. I'll tell you what I used to do when I was younger. I used to, with those bits that I cut out, I used to keep them separate on a separate document because I ever wanted to go back to them. I never did.
It's like a graveyard.
Yeah, like a scene graveyard. I had a whole funeral set out. I had a graveyard for these scenes. Never went back to them.
I wrote this story, and it was one of my favorite stories that I've ever worked on. I've got notebooks full of this world that I built. It's absolutely massive. This is for a novel, not a script. But I suppose it could work as a script, but that's off topic. And I spent ages working on this story. The narrative was flowing, the characters were fantastic, and I was really enjoying the process. And then one day I was like looking back and I was rereading it, and I just had this flash of, you're telling the wrong story. And I was looking at it thinking, what? How am I telling the wrong story? Like, this is something I've been working on for months and months. I've been writing it, I've been rewriting it, I was editing it as I was going along, which is very unlike me, but I was very into like making sure that this story was bang on because I was really enjoying it and I wanted to tell this story. And then to have that moment of, actually, I'm following this character as they're quite old. They're in like their 50s, they're in their 60s, they're decrepit, they're struggling, their life is really bad, they're in a bad situation. The world around them's crumbling, and I was like, I need to tell the story of how they got to this point more than I need to tell this story at the moment. So I've rested that story, and I dived probably about like 20-30 years before where that character was, and I started writing the world as it was coming into formation, as their story was coming into formation. And I found it was really upsetting for me to put down like how far I'd gone with this particular story.
Yeah.
To then swerve it, even though I'm still with the same character, I'm still with the same world that I've built, I'm moving the story back like 20-30 years. And it was kind of upsetting. It paid off because the story I've written now is much, much better. It's much tighter. So it's much richer as a story, as a world, as I'm following this person. But at the same time, like retiring the older story, the older man right now, it's quite sad that I put it to the vaults.
I also kind of find it a bit more difficult to write characters that aren't in the same age group or below where I currently am. Obviously, my police procedural has somebody who's in their 60s as a main character. And sometimes I'm finding it difficult to kind of like write it because obviously I've not experienced that yet. I've only experienced it through relatives or people that I've known of that age group. So I'm finding it a little bit more difficult to do that. So yeah, sometimes it can help to go back and be like, actually, I'm going to write a completely different thing, but like them at a different point of their life, and that might inform where they are at the moment in the script. That could be a useful exercise to do.
It helps you get to know the character in a much deeper way.
Yeah.
But like I said, just resting that manuscript, it was actually kind of heartbreaking to do that. Even though it's paid off, I also don't want to let go of old man version of this character.
You kind of
maybe I'll revive it.
Does it feel a little bit like kind of like you failed that story, but you've obviously not because you've gone back to start the new one to inform this one. They're kind of like symbiotic.
I've always found that grammatically and structurally, I'm a much stronger writer if I'm not thinking about something. If I'm, if I do dive into that pantsing kind of thing, even going back to university, going back to school assignments, I handed in so many first drafts that I got amazing feedback. They were like, this is well written, this is well edited, this is well researched. I'm like, that was actually kind of a first draft.
I mean, it's a good start. It means you've got less stuff to go through in the second draft, but also kind of like bad practice in terms of like, okay, well then, if you feel like you poured your heart and soul out into something and it's only a first draft, then it's like, oh, okay, is that the best I can do? Or can I do better than that? Kind of thing when it comes to the next draft.
Yeah. Well, in a very strange way, though, I remember I made a massive effort in one of my university assignments. I absolutely loved the subject that we were talking about. I dived really deep into it. I spent weeks on this one essay, and I was like editing it. I was like really polishing it and making it shine. And I was like, this is going to be fantastic. And it got a D. I think this is translated to me, though, in a way that my first draft is a lot stronger than if I'm overthinking it and overcorrecting something. So if I'm just letting it out, I'm a lot stronger as a writer and as an editor because I'm unconsciously editing as I go along than if I'm consciously making the effort to edit it.
Once it's finished.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah. Yeah, so things like the temptation, obviously, to go back to Swem the script that I've submitted for Swim. There is there was a point where I was like, okay, I've edited it all together. I'm not going to touch it anymore. I've messaged the person to pick it up and have it ready for blah 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 blah. And when they sent the last email saying this is what we need for you alongside the script, I went back in and edited it again.
You did not.
I did. Now, it wasn't a big edit. It was basically to get the parentheses out because I'd left them in. But I was like, all I'm going to do, I'm not going to change any story-related things. I'm just going to get those formatting bits out so people can't talk about it later on. Now everyone's going to realise if they listen to this podcast. But I couldn't give it to him with those still being in there. This isn't representative of how I write now, and I feel like I've let myself down if I leave it in. So I had to cut it out at the end. And I'm like, I promised myself I wouldn't do any more editing, and I did some more editing.
Oh, I told you to put it down.
You did tell me to put it down, and I did put it down. All the way up until the point I was about to hit the word send, and I was like, no, I had to go back through and just check it one more time. But it's gone now. It's gone. It's gone. I'm not touching it again.
I'm reading it.
I'm touching it again. I'm not doing another redraft of it until after I've had it read properly.
I've found as well the process of editing something myself and having had a manuscript edited by an actual editor, they're very different experiences. Like,
yeah,
he picked up on some tiny ass nuances that I would never have like looked at.
There is
and maybe it's a little too deep. Or maybe it's completely warranted and it's all these little things that do make the massive difference.
And that's the thing as well, like, when it comes to editing feedback or going through it with a fine-tooth comb, you don't have to change everything. Like, if you disagree with someone's comments about an editing redo, you don't have to do it. You don't have to live and die by the sword of that. There are things where it's more obvious that you have to change. There's more things where it's less obvious that you have to change them. It could just be a matter of taste rather than it needs to be done kind of thing. And that's okay. You don't have to edit everything. You only have to edit as much as you are comfortable to do and as much as you're being paid to do. That's as much as you need to do.
Do you do a line by line kind of edit, or is it a brief read through and an overview?
Do a bit of both. So with the first edits, I go through line by line to make sure there's nothing glaringly wrong with it, that sort of thing. And then I will go through and skim it and be like, well, I know there's something wrong with scene 10. I'll go down to that. And I'll just skim through everything else until I get to scene 10. Then I'll go through it like a fine-tooth comb. And then I'll skim through the rest of it and try and pick up things that way as well.
Do you like to edit on screen, or is it an on paper experience?
On screen. I prefer it on screen because I just get frustrated when I'm writing something. I'm trying to cross something out and then write over it. It just makes it look really ugly. I'm like, I just prefer to do it on the screen where I can just edit it out and make it look pretty. That's how I tend to do it.
We're so different because I like to print. I like to have the print version. I feel like I absorb the information much better as a printed.
Don't get me wrong. I do like printing the scripts off once they're finished. The drafts are finished, not the script is finished. And going through it and just like reading through and be like, oh yeah, this doesn't quite flow very well, that sort of thing. But I won't annotate on it. I will just read it and then put it in the actual online version and then print up a new version of it.
Annotate. Right.
Or whatever. I'll just go through it.
I just want to re-clarify that I do actually compost a lot of what I've printed off, so it does get recycled properly.
So Gressa, you can get off her back. She's not trying to harm the environment.
I'm thinking of the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you saw the state of my head, you wouldn't be saying that I'm not thinking of the environment right now because the pollinator's like crazy on that. Nothing to do with the fact that no one's trimmed it in about 3 years. Finn, I actually have a question for you. How do you know when you're ready and the script or the manuscript is finished and you're not going to touch it again?
You never know. It's never finished. It's that thing where it's like, a work of art is never finished, it's merely abandoned. But I think for me, it's more like if I go through a draft of a script and I physically can't think of anything else that needs to add to it before it's reviewed by someone and I get told by an outside source, If there's nothing I can physically add to it or I can see as a glaring mistake, then I will consider it finished. For now.
Do you put it down and not pick it back up, or do you just, I've got to change this now, or just thought of something else?
Well,
I'm just going to change that.
Like case in point, what I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. I will tend to put it down, leave it alone until the very last minute, and then go through. Let me just go through and just change little bits and come back to it again. But yeah, it's never finished. It's never finished. They could always do another draft. But like I said, I'm happy once all the glaring things that I can see in the script have been dealt with. There isn't any formatting issues, that sort of thing. Until it comes back from whoever reads it or an editor, that sort of thing. Then I don't know where I'm going from that point. That makes sense. If I've exhausted all the options of my personal edit through that script, then I say it's done.
What you're saying is you'll never not pick it back up.
Yes. I'll go with that, Your Honour.
I posted some of my old short stories on Substack. Now, these were written, when I was doing my university degree, so about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was rereading them, I had to resist the urge to touch them or to polish them or to action some of the feedback that was still on it, because I still had the tutor's feedback.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it and I thought, as far as I'm concerned, I'm emotionally detached from these pieces. These have been in the vault for like 10 years or so. I'm not going to touch them. There's no point. Right, I'm done with these stories. I don't feel the need to tell these stories anymore, so I don't want to edit it. So I just posted it up as it was, basically. I mean, you're probably looking at a third draft at best of these stories. And it's not my best work, because my best work is some of the stuff I'm doing now, because I'm a lot more experienced. I'm a lot more confident with it.
How do we know when something's done?
We don't.
It's never done. It's always an ever-evolving process. All I can say about when it's done is when you hit the deadline. When you're happy with that particular draft of your script, before it goes off to be analysed by somebody else, or if it gets put in a drawer for ages, or if it gets submitted somewhere for a competition, if you are happy with that current edit, then it's done.
I'd say that's fair, because I would say that my version of Courier the script that I have done, it's done. I'm not going to touch it again. I'm not going to meddle with it. There's no more editing to be done on it, because in my perspective, it's the best I can do for it. And yeah, okay, it's racking up rejections at a very, very fast pace, but that's not reflective of the work or my editing skills. It's reflective of the industry right now. It's difficult to break into it. It's not 100% because of my writing or my editing skills. So I'm not going to, be constantly working on it and overwork it just to try and get someone's attention.
Let it sit. Like, I know we'll joke and say that it's never done, never finished, but you also need to let it sit. You don't want to be constantly doing that constant rewrite and not have an end in sight. Even if it's a kind of like I've forgotten this bit, let someone else point it out to you. If you are submitting it somewhere, let it sit. Just put it down at some point for an indeterminate amount of time. Put it down, leave it alone, come back to it, maybe like a day, a week afterwards, that sort of thing. Don't keep churning it out and getting nowhere. Don't spin your wheels.
Oh, see, I try and let things sit for a good 6 months at least.
I tend to let things sit for about a good 10 years, but before I come back
much like my messages.
Hey! Thank you so much for watching, guys. What are your self-editing techniques? What kind of things do you keep you on your toes when you're editing, that kind of thing? What kind of discipline do you have when it comes to that sort of thing? Let us know. You can comment on Spotify and on YouTube down below as well. We try and get these out every single month, give or take a couple of months where we take them off. So yeah, hopefully this should be out by June, July time. But obviously we'll let you know in the Discord and on all the social medias, which Andy will tell you now.
You can join us on Instagram, Blue Sky, Spotify. Like I said, YouTube comments. We've got our Discord server now, and come on over to my Substack. Have a chat there as well.
Have a mosey on down to her Substack.
Yeah. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear your stories, your experiences. You know, we'll read out your stories on the podcast if we ever get anyone who gives us their stories. You know.
And we'll try and get some other special guests to come and join us as well on the future ones as well. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us in this conversation.
This has been The Path to Publication. I
have been Finn.
And I've been Andie.
And have a lovely evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye.